Hey, Liz, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you here.
Hello. Thank you.
You've been a lash artist since 2012, and you have built such an incredible reputation, and I'm excited to dive into that a little bit today. To get started, do you want to talk a little bit about your come-up story? Like, what did life look like before lashing, or how or why did you even get into lashing?
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I was a bartender forever in like nightclubs, some strip clubs. You made really good money there. Serving as well. But I mainly did bartending kind of after about 20. And then I went into restaurants and I wanted to go to college, but I only really ever saw myself in the service industry.
Yeah.
So I went to college and did hotel and restaurant management or hospitality management. And although I didn't stay with that for too much longer after I actually graduated, I had a full-time job as a restaurant manager at like a really nice restaurant in Calgary when I got into college. So I was like, this is kind of silly. But I actually use a lot of what I learned in running my business now. So it's really beneficial and I don't regret doing that. But from there, I just kind of got sick and tired of babysitting grown adult, quite honestly. And I wasn't really bartending anymore. I wasn't really serving anymore. I was just doing management. And it was fun and I loved the people that I worked with, but it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, you know? And so I got laser hair removal before my wedding and I was a hairy beast, like so hairy, like Burt Reynolds style. And so it's not cute, right? And I had this like vision that I was going to have like a razor and all of my tweezers and everything confiscated at the airport. We had a destination wedding. And so I got hair removal because a girlfriend had just started doing it. And there was only one clinic in town that did it at the time. And it was a miracle. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. So at the time I was a marketing manager for a restaurant group. And I went over to this laser clinic and I kind of stalked her. Once a month, I would go in with coffee on her lunch break. And I would say, I know you're going to hire me. And I'm going to be a great employee and I'm going to go to school and get my laser aesthetics and you're not going to regret it. And she finally hired me like 6 months later.
I love how you put yourself out there.
Oh yeah, I was not taking no for an answer. And I worked there for almost 5 years. I have really nice natural lashes. Like they're really long. I have quite a few of them. Like I looked great with mascara. I didn't really know what lashes were. And she said, you're going to learn this new thing and it's called lash extensions. And I was kind of like, no, I'm not. Thank you though. Because I really like doing laser. And I came home and my husband's like, what are you doing? You like learning new things. Just take the course. Like, what's the problem? If you don't like it, don't do it. So I went in the next day and I'm like, okay, I'll take the course. But like, if I don't like it, I'm not doing this. All sassy.
Like, at least I'll try it.
Yeah. And I loved it like right away. And this was when lashes were like in pot, right? So it was all loose lashes.
Oh my God.
We had the little silicone mats. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I came into the industry, I think like 2 years after that, but I remember seeing the pods and silicone mats and I was like, why are people using these? I didn't understand because I guess that's how you guys were trained. So you guys were still using them even when like something new comes to market, it takes a little while to transfer over.
Yeah, we didn't know that trays even existed. We figured it out maybe 6 months after I started doing them. But for the first like 6 months, it was loose lashes. So you would have to like sprinkle them out and line them up. But I have kind of a thing with placement. That's why laser was so good because like you have to overlap by 10% and it's very like structured. It just scratches some kind of an itch for me. I lined up those lashes on the silicone mat, like perfectly spaced. The direction was perfect. The trainer comes in and she goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you've been doing lashes. Like, how long have you been doing lashes? I'm like, I don't know, 2 hours? How long has it been? Like, when do we get the people? I wanted to do it so bad. And yeah, right away, I just said to my boss, like, give me all the lashes. Give me all the lashes. And my laser clients weren't super happy about it. So I worked at the clinic for another year and a half.
So you were good right off the bat, like after your training?
Well,
or you were just confident? Were you good? Or were you just confident?
I was decent. So I've had probably a handful of students that were on the same level during training. And I'm like, oh, you have this. Like, and it's not all that common, I don't think. But I
hope that's not the norm. I struggled for years. I believe something that's not the norm.
Volume. Yeah, I really struggled with volume. But with classics, like there was just something. I have good depth perception. I think that also helped.
Yeah.
But like we were taught never to get the lashes wet ever. Never clean them. So lots of stuff was a struggle because like just ick. But a year later, I took a different class and was like, here we go. This is better.
And was that the volume class afterward?
No, I did an extreme lash class after the first one. I won't say who the first one was. I don't want to
No, that's
speak
okay.
ill of anybody, right?
Yeah.
But it just wasn't great. But again, it was 2012 and it was what was available.
Did you feel a lot better after your second class?
Oh, so much.
What changed?
Well, I know I already had the application down, but it was a lot of the disinfection and the cleansing and just the process, even cutting their strips into chunks.
I just pictured all of these people coming back with uncleaned lashes and you having to work on that. Okay.
It was so gross. We caused blepharitis and probably eye infections in so many people. So the instructor pulled me aside and said, listen, I'm going to put you on the directory right away because you already know what you're doing. I think you just needed some guidance on the other procedures. And that gave me a ton of confidence, of course. We moved to Vancouver at that point and I started my own business. I got out there, man. I hustled hard.
What does hustling look like for you? What did that look like?
At the time, I always had some kind of something on my body that has lashes on it. My wallet always had lashes on it. I had cards with me everywhere. I already strike up conversations with everybody that I meet. So I think you kind of have to have that already or get more comfortable with that. And I would work it in that I do lashes. And because I think they were still kind of new-ish, this was 2013, I would convince people that they needed to try them or they needed to get them done. I was posting a lot on Facebook. Instagram wasn't a thing yet, but Facebook was. And so I was posting on Facebook constantly, before and afters, those crappy, I quickly learned to do one eye at a time and make a collage, little things like that. But I just talked to everybody. I tried to do free women's event. I got in with some mom groups, even though I wasn't a mom. I met some girls and they got me into their mom groups and they would do these little market women empowerment event. I would set up a booth. Mainly it was getting those first probably 20 clients and then referrals.
Amazing.
I got so many referrals.
So you went from doing your first lash training, ending up kind of like a unicorn, being pretty good at it right off the top of the bat. Pretty decent at it off the top of the bat. And then you went to competing and winning competitions and becoming a trainer when you didn't even want to start with lashes. What got you excited to do competitions and then get into training? And where was that shift for you?
In 2014, I met a girl in Vancouver. She was also an extreme stylist. We used to do trades with each other and we would research lash stuff. And then we would do each other's lashes. We would get food, we'd research, and then we'd do each other's lashes. And she found out about a training with Nadia Afanaseva that was happening in Vegas. And so we went there and we took the training. And I found out from Nadia at the time that she was judging Lash Wars. And it was the first year of Lash Wars. Lash Wars? What is this? And she explained it's a she didn't really speak English, but her translator explained this is a lash competition and you can enter and you can get feedback from all of these judges. And I was I am coming back next year and doing this. Something lit a spark. And so I worked so hard that next year and I entered in Lash Wars, knowing full well I wasn't going to win, but I wanted to know where I stood. I wanted to know what I was doing good. I wanted to know what I was doing bad. And I figured getting feedback from all of those judges, because they give you personal feedback, would be taking 8 classes in one.
That is such a good way of looking at it, because I think people are so afraid to compete because they are criticizing their work or they know it's not as good as other people's work. But that feedback, it's priceless.
Yeah. I want constructive criticism all the time. I want to get better and I feel I am open to it.
Yeah.
And so I don't ever take it personally. And I think it's really important when you're taking a new class or when you're learning a new skill, you have to be open to hearing how you can improve. Because if you don't, then you're never going to improve, right?
No, I feel the exact same way. You're growing all the time. And anytime I do a new course, you got to go with the mindset that you don't know anything. And then that way you can actually pick up on those new bits of information. Even if it is a shitty course and you're going in there, you're oh, I already know all of this. This was a waste of my money. Still go in with the mindset, maybe I can still learn something from, if not the instructor or somebody else in the room, right? Still always think of yourself as a newbie. You'll
learn something. There's something you will take away from every single thing that you endeavor to learn from, right? It's impossible not to learn something, even if it's something silly. You learn something about customer service that you didn't know before, or you learn about a new product, a new type of tape to use to tape up. you might not feel like you got the value for your money, but you probably still learned something.
And like, I don't want to dive too much into the competition side of things. I feel like that's going to be a whole nother episode on its own, that there's so much there. But one thing I have to ask you, because this is going back to like 2012, 2014 kind of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back then, there was not a lot of resources on lashes. There was not a lot of people, I believe, that you could reach out to for feedback and information and things like that. So how did you know what to do when you're going into that competition? How were you like, okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to show up. This is the first lash competition. Not even knowing what to expect. Like, how did you navigate all of that?
I read the rules like 8,000 times, front and back. I had my husband read them to me. I had our cousins read them to me. And then I read them again. Because I'm like, I need to just, if I just follow the rules, then I have the best chance of not losing points for stupid shit.
It's so basic, but so smart at the same time.
So basic, but it's like, truly, I went in knowing I wasn't going to win that first year. Every competition I go into, I go in thinking I'm not going to win, but thinking there's going to be something that I learn here that I can improve upon. And when I put myself out there like that, first of all, like, you're shaking like a leaf, like literally shaking like a leaf. At one point, my model grabbed me as my best friend the first year. She grabbed me and she was like, dude, like, stop shaking. You know what you're doing. And I'm like, okay. And I like breathed super deep. But honestly, that first year was the year that I met Vivian Coe from Lash Boutique Pro.
Yeah.
Emily Lee was actually the competition director, and she is now currently and still one of my biggest mentors. And she was terrifying just because she's very like about the rules, and we were both living in Vancouver at the time, and I didn't really know her, but she actually sent me a message after and said, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't realize your work was really good. And you've tried to send me clients and I totally shut them down.
Aww.
It was like receiving the biggest compliment from, I had been following her for a long time. She's the reason I even knew what volume lashing was, because of her YouTube. But yeah, I met all these people. Sarah Pennington from the Lash Collection, who is a dear friend of mine.
Oh, you guys have been friends for a while then. Wow.
Yeah. Viv was competing that same year, and my best friend had to leave early. So she was there for the competition, but then she had to go. And Viv, at the beginning of the weekend, just kind of looked over at me and she's just like, where are you from? I was like, Canada? Where? I'm like, Vancouver? She's like, yeah, me too. Come on. And she literally put her arm around me and was like, you're coming with us.
Aww.
And Sarah was with her. And the thing I loved about Sarah was that we were together for an entire weekend and she didn't once tell me that she owned a lash brand. It was like, I'm a lash artist and I have a lash studio in Atlanta. And then someone else was like, oh my God, you're Sarah from the Lash Collection. I order from you. And I was like, order what? I just loved that. And like the integrity that she showed, she wasn't like, here, pushing her stuff on me.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a dinner after the award show with about 15 lash artists. And I learned more around that dinner table that night than I had learned in the 3 years prior to that. Like, it was crazy. And at that time, there was very little resources to find anything. And nobody was sharing information because it was like, oh, I know this thing, but like, if I keep it to myself, then, it just was a different time.
It's like, it's a trade secret. Can't tell you.
And these women were so open and just shared everything. And there was debates about the Nano Mister. I had bought one, but I'm like too afraid to use it. And everyone was talking about it. And I went home and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it.
Where do you stand on the Nano Mister?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I also live in a desert practically, so it helps. Even on sensitive clients, I use it every 10 minutes for 3 to 5 seconds to help cure that adhesive while I'm working. And then I do a post cleanse on every single client, no matter what, pre and post. But I add the Nano Mister in during application. If it's super dry, I do use a low humidity adhesive as well. But I never like blast it. It's just like, shh, okay, I'm done.
And I know people are going to message and ask, how long do you wait to do your post cleanse? Like, is it 2 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Is it right away? What are you doing?
About 2. My process is I lay the last lash, and I typically by the last like 10 minutes, if I'm going back and forth, I'll make sure that I'm only on one eye for at least 2 minutes So like I'll finish on the right eye, let's say, and then I'll do the left eye for the last 2 minutes. I lay the last lash and then I do my super bonder on the right eye because it's already been 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll do the post cleanse on that eye right after my super bonder. And then I'll do the bonder on the left eye and do the cleanse.
Okay. So split it up. And then that way you're saving time, not waiting a fresh whole 2 minutes.
And sorry, I'll do the bonder and then a quick
check, quick check.
Sticky check. But like I'm doing sticky checks kind of throughout, just quickly. But yeah, I'll do a really quick sticky check and then the post cleanse.
I love that you were doing like trial and error. You were trying things that you were kind of afraid of doing. It's a great way to continue to grow and learn. What do you think makes a good lash artist? So we know always being willing to grow and educate yourself is one of them. What else do you think makes a really good lash artist?
Technically depth perception, which is kind of crappy because I mean, we don't really talk about that all that often in the lash industry, but it is a big thing. And if you don't have depth perception, and this is coming from someone who has also been a lash educator for a really long time, if a student comes in and they're struggling and they can't get the lash on there because they're missing the mark every time, you can train yourself to know, like, okay, so I'm off of it by 2 millimeters. I have to come up every time.
Yeah.
But it would just add a lot of stress, right? I think steady hands and a good eye, like other than depth perception, being able to see attention to detail. If you don't have attention to detail, you're never going to get to that next level. You might be a lash tech, I would say, where you're just like applying lashes and they look fine. But to become a lash artist, you have to have that attention to detail. You have to be able to see the artistry in the application.
It's making notes as we go here.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. And just always being able to like take constructive feedback and not take it as a personal attack or like it's never personal, right? Unless someone says, I don't like you as a person. Well, then that's just crappy.
That's personal.
Yeah.
Okay. So depth perception, if you don't have it, are you just out of luck? Like this is something that like, it's either you have it or you don't. Can this be trained?
That's the thing. I know that there are ocular exercises that you can do to kind of like strengthen the muscles, which I think would probably help with depth perception. But I honestly don't know. I do have one student who really struggled and she trained herself because she really wanted to do lashes. She trained herself because she knew she was off by about 1 millimeter below. So she was going lower. She would get down there and then she would pull up to feel and she would always attach from the bottom. And that allowed her to continue doing it and be able to successfully do it. But in that, like when you're doing that, you're not just seeing, you're also feeling, right? And I think that is part of it. Like I could do it by touch as well. How you get to know how things feel, but
you have to really want it.
It would add a lot of extra stuff to it.
And then steady hands and a good eye. I feel like that comes with time and can be trained because when I first started lashing, I did not have steady hands. And I, for the life of me, could not see the difference between the anagen, telogen, and I forgot the third one, but the 3 types of lashes. Catagen. I could not tell the difference. They all looked exactly the same to me. And my trainer is like, "Did you see those baby lashes?" I'm like, I don't see anything there. Like, it is invisible to me. But now, being like 10 years in, okay, I can totally see the difference in like the different stages of growth. Yes. Like now they look different. And then when I first started, I could not have coffee when I lash at all. My hands would get so shaky. I was nervous, the caffeine, all of that. And now if I have a calm day, I can totally have a coffee and my hands are steady now. And also layers. Like when I was first introduced to layers at an advanced training layer on, I could not tell the difference between layers. But eventually, when you realize what you're looking for, your eye starts to see it.
That's the thing. Practice.
Yeah.
Like that the only way to get better at lashes is practice. There's no like magic trick. There's no shortcut. It's just hours earned doing the craft.
And practicing the right way.
Yeah. And magnifiers, using magnifying glasses. Like I have really good vision, but I still use like drugstore readers. I use +2s because I don't want to get tension headaches. I don't want to be exhausted because my eyes have been working so hard looking at these tiny little.
And when you say attention to detail, like what is the most important thing to pay attention to, or like some of the most important things to pay attention to and really master?
If we're talking about styling, or I mean, I guess even in application, there should be some kind of style, right? Recognizing, okay, I want it to look like this from the top for it to look like this from the front, because they look so different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks so different from above than it does open. And I think understanding that is key, but then being able to see if that map looks off to your view is really important. I see a lot of students, they just want long lashes the whole way across the eye. And it's like, no, you have to get that taper, whatever that taper looks like. There has to be some kind of taper in order to make it up a level. You can tell when someone is new, typically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all from the styling that they're applying. It's very kind of blunt versus that, like, oh, look at that.
That is literally the like, oh.
Yeah.
That is the fact. And a lot of times when people come in for pictures, like they bring in pictures of lashes, or we're going through pictures of lashes, it's usually the ones that are like one length all the way across. They're like, I don't want this. Something doesn't look right about this, because it's missing that taper and like dropping the inners and dropping the outers when you need to.
Yeah, the artistry.
The artistry. I love that. Yeah, I love that you said the difference between being a lash tech and a lash artist is paying attention to details. I've never heard it explained like that. And I think that is like the signature reason why someone is a lash artist versus a lash tech. That is a really cool way of explaining it.
Oh, that's funny. That's just always, it's kind of how I always saw it, right? You're a lash tech, and then all of a sudden one day you just develop into a lash artist because you just kind of go up that level. I don't know.
I love that though. I absolutely love that.
What do you think makes a really good lash artist?
I'm going to go back to literally listening and communication. Listening and communication, I think, are so important, and really setting the expectations of what's possible and what's not, which I think comes back to listening and communication as well. Because I think when people come in, they don't exactly know what they want, or what they want might not be possible. And I think that's the reason I got into lashing to begin with, was because when I had my lashes done, I was told like I can have a certain thing. And then 3 fills later, they're like, well, you don't have the lashes to handle it. I'm like, well, you could have told me that the first time. So I'm not expecting an amazing full set of lashes every single time. So I think just really being clear and upfront, so there's no surprises later, and being able to ask questions, and always being investing in your work and your education and your training, and always learning and always growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always make sure to tell my students that it is okay if you've made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's okay as long as you correct it. Like if you apply something and you think your client can handle it, and then they come in and you're like, ooh, I'm starting to see a little bit of like diminished lash growth, don't keep going.
Nope. I was like, okay, this was great for that time. You got to enjoy them. Now we're going to taper these down. And if your baby lashes grow, we can load them back up. But for now, we got to taper these down.
100%. And it's okay if you've made a mistake, but as long as you don't continue to make that mistake knowingly, because then you won't even have a client.
Yeah. And you're still going to make more mistakes, and you're going to make other mistakes. But again, what? Something correcting. Course correcting. All right. So if someone is a good lash artist and they're debating about whether or not they want to get into training, it looks lucrative, it looks exciting, it looks like another way to add on income, what should they be thinking about or asking themselves to know, like, this is a really good fit for me, or like, maybe it's not?
Yeah. Are you someone who needs to do it all? And I don't mean all of the aspects of it, like being a lash artist, being an educator, being a salon owner. I mean the actual application of lashes. Are you someone who can stand there and observe another person doing lashes and keep your hands to yourself and use your mouth to explain what they need to do better, right? If you really break it down, to be a good lash artist is amazing, but to be a good educator is a completely different way of looking at the whole thing, right? You need to be able to observe the way that someone is working and give them tips on how to do it better. You can't jump in and do everything for everybody because there is only really one learning style that learns like that. Most people who want to become lash artists, they learn really well hands-on. So little things like if someone is holding their tweezers wrong, don't take the tweezers out of their hand because you're taking the power away from them. You grab your own set of tweezers and come next to them and display how to hold them differently so that they can mimic you, right? Or even the angle that they're holding their tweezer. Grab your own tweezer, let them have their tweezer in their hand. It continues to give the student their own power. It allows them to hold their power instead of taking it away. It seems silly, but it really does make a huge difference. You have to be able to communicate really well. Patience. Can you be a patient person? A lot of the time as a lash educator, you are explaining the same things over and over and over again. And if that would frustrate you,
that would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Then it might not be great, right? It's a lot of extra work. It's not just, oh, okay, I can take a student.
Yeah.
You also have to set time out of your application schedule in order to take classes, right? If you are a fully booked lash artist and then you want to add being an educator on top of that, you have to make sure that you are then scaling back as a lash artist a little bit in order to leave room for this second job, because it's not just like adding something on a couple weekends. It's like a full second job, right? And if you're creating the program yourself, it is a whole nother beast. You have to figure all the things out. You have to draw up contracts and you have to figure out spreadsheets. And a lot of it, hopefully you have already, because as a lash artist, you should maybe have these procedures and things in place. But if you don't, then you have to create them so that your students will have the best possible start, right?
Right. Okay. So if you're a good lash artist, you have patience, you're good at observing and tweaking what someone else is doing in a positive way and giving constructive feedback.
Yeah.
You have the time to scale back on your clients to make room for class, and you want to create the program. And you're like, okay, like, yes, this is for me. Like, this is what I want to do. What's next? Like, what are the first few steps that they should take on this journey and like some of the foundational elements that they should focus on?
Take a lash educator program. So when I first started, I had my first class in January of 2016, and this didn't exist yet. Thankfully, I was raised by a teacher. My dad was a fourth grade teacher his whole career. And so I think I inherently had a little bit of that in me. Like I always felt like I wanted to do something with teaching, but I really dislike school, like traditional school.
Yep.
So I knew I wanted to do something like that, but I hadn't found my thing yet. And then with lashes, I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I want to do. So I put my course together and it was decent, but I was missing a lot of elements that I should have had and I didn't have. So in 2017, I took the NALA Educator certification course, but I had been teaching for almost 2 years. And I was like, oh, I'll take this course and I might learn a couple things, but she'll probably tell me my course is great.
Your expression.
Oh my gosh. I added like 100 pages to my manual.
Oh my God.
I left there because I wasn't including all of the things that I'm like, oh, well, everyone's going to know to do that. No, you have to set everything out for them, because if you've been a lash artist for a certain amount of time, a lot of these things have just become second nature, and you don't really think about the fact that someone new coming in isn't going to understand that. Also, as an educator, you have to be able to put yourself back at that day one. How did you feel? What did you need in that moment from your educator that you didn't get? Well, give that to your students, right? You have to be it can be really good money, but it's a lot of work for that money, right? It's not like passive income by any means.
So after doing it on your own for 2 years and then taking an educator course, you had to completely revamp your pages and your manual. What other changes that were you not expecting that you had to do or implement, or like you decided to do differently?
Yeah, the way that I deliver the course, even. I wasn't taking into account that everybody has a different learning style. Not everybody is you, and you learn differently. I am I guess you would call it neurodivergent. I have pretty severe ADHD.
That makes two. I mean,
Right?
after this conversation, I realized like there's so many parts of us that are similar. Like we're different people, but there's so many parts of us that are so similar.
Yeah. And so I don't learn the way that other people learn, and other people don't learn the way that I learn. And I do like small classes. I prefer up to 3 students. If it is like someone who's not brand new, then I'll do a 4th person. If there's someone who's doing like a secondary, I do mainly teach beginners though, because I love teaching beginners.
Yeah.
I love those light bulbs, but I prefer smaller classes. So my preference is 2 or 3 students at a time. But those 2 or 3 students might all learn in different ways. And so catering the class to all the different learning styles, I also implemented online theory, which just skyrocketed my student success. When they don't have to sit here for 2 days and hear you just droning on about the theory, like you know that they're retaining 10% of it. You can see their eyes glazing over, like, okay, what else? I thought I was just going to be applying lashes here. Like there's more, because I think it's important to have really good foundational theory. And it's super important to understand everything that goes along with it. And once you have that, then you can focus more on the application. And I think troubleshooting going forward is a lot easier for new students or like new lash artists if they have that really good foundation.
So what would you say makes a good lash trainer?
Patience, lots of patience, and actually dedicating yourself and your time to your students, making sure that you are giving them everything that you can all the time. You don't get to have a bad day if you're teaching a class, right? Follow up, making sure that, and this is where some people disagree because they think that they should be paid for ongoing mentorship. But I feel like if you have trusted me as your educator to start in this industry and then you're working on your own, you can call me anytime. Anytime. You can call, email, text, send a smoke signal, whatever you need to do. Like I am available to my students anytime. And for years, like I have students who I had at the very beginning who I'm still very close with and I still chat with all the time about lashes. And they still feel like they can come to me and ask like, hey, I'm having like retention issues with this client or, you know, whatever it may be. I feel like that it goes beyond the kind of money side of it. And people have trusted me to like get into this new career. And I feel like it's my duty to be a mentor to these people.
I did a lash lift training with my friend Michelle at Authentic Artistry, and she's one person where like it's been 3 years. I can reach out to her, and this girl will send me back a Canva video voiceover with everything I need to do and a video with her client explaining what I was struggling with. And then there's other people that I've spent thousands of dollars on training with, and I don't feel comfortable at all reaching out to them. It was like, you go there, you get it done, you leave, and like there's no going back. And I have not mastered that skill yet, like what I was in that course to do. But I feel like having a trainer or a mentor that you're comfortable with and that's willing to like put in the work with you goes such a long way.
Yeah. And like setting that stuff up ahead of time, right? And so make sure your students understand before they've even started their program, like this is how you can contact me. This is when you can contact me. And please, if you're open to it, please feel free to contact me at any given time. And I will follow up with them, you know, from time to time. Hey, how's it going? Like tag me in your photos. I love seeing people's wins. And I didn't always do the best with like, I never got reviews from anybody. Yeah. I never took photos or videos during classes. And I'm like, what was I doing all these years?
Training. She was training.
Right? I was never focused on like the marketing side of it, which is not great because you do have to do those things.
Because it's a difference between being a good lash trainer and then being a successful lash trainer, right?
Yes.
So then we covered like what makes a good lash trainer. What about the successful side? So I guess one part of that would have been the marketing.
Yeah, definitely marketing. And I would say referrals. Like I live in a small town in a valley in BC, and I've had people travel from all over to train with me because of referrals or good word of mouth. And that to me means so much. I barely market my classes at this point. And yeah, just like building a good reputation for being there and having a good program. It's so funny. I had another lash artist in town. We've never like taken any trainings together. She's never trained from me. I've never trained from her, but she always sends me people. And she said, the only downfall is that she's probably too thorough and she just goes too like above and beyond. And I was like, I will take that as a negative because it's not a negative to me.
That is like the best thing someone could say about you.
Because she had someone who was talking to her and it was one of my students and she was like, oh yeah, like she was great. But like, it was almost like too much. Like she gave us like too much information. Like, well, that's not a negative.
And you'll always come back to use that information later. Like there's times where you go through your notes and you're like, okay, like this hits differently the second, third, fourth year into lashing or into training. It makes such a big difference. I don't know. Your passion for like the whole lash industry and really elevating it, it's really inspiring. It's really cool to see what you've been doing. And you're also very quiet about it. Like I feel like it makes sense. You're like, I don't market myself. I do everything through word of mouth. And I'm like, this makes a lot more sense. So she's laid down on the foundation, the processes, she's got her program in place, and it's really doing the work for her, which is really cool.
Oh, thank you.
With your Principals of the Lash Artistry program, I feel like you're really setting new standards. Definitely setting new standards.
That's my goal.
And it's like,
oh, that's my goal.
What made you want to create this program in the first place? And what vision do you have for it in the future?
Yeah. So I have always said that I want to be kind of like a lash spider, right? I put my little tentacles out, or not tentacles, that's an octopus, my little legs out, and I just spread information as much as I can. But again, like I live in a small town in BC, in a valley. I can't train that many people, right? I have a small impact where I live. And I mean, it's a large impact where I live, but beyond that, I guess I have a much smaller impact. And I'm really proud of my program. And I finally got it NALA accredited in 2021. And I've always loved what NALA did since I took the Educator course in 2017. I just love her mission and her vision, and that she wants to promote higher standards in the industry overall through her guidance. And taking the Educator course, I was able to really pimp out my manual and pimp out my program. And I had a student named Chandra, and she took my class in 2020. She traveled from Saskatchewan and came and trained with me. And she walked in the door and I was like, we're going to be connected. I can feel it already. When you just meet those people
and you're vibe.
Like, there's a vibe. And we stayed in touch and she worked her ass off. Like she worked so hard, and you can see in her work when that artistry clicked. Right? Because she did pretty decent from the start, but it was, like basic, like we all start. And then it just clicked and she was doing so good. And we were walking down the street in Vegas and she was like, hey, I really want to teach. I think I would be a good lash educator. And I was like, yes, you would. And she said, I loved your program and I loved what it did for me. Would you ever consider letting me use it in some way to become an educator? Because I want to do what you did for me for other people.
That's a great compliment too. Oh my gosh, Liz.
Like my whole body was just covered in goosebumps. And I was like, yes.
I hope you have this on your cookie jar for a bad day when you're not really feeling yourself and you can pull it out and remember these moments.
I love that. I should do that.
Yes, you should. That.
And so I went home and I said to my husband, this is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to put a program together where I teach educators and then I let them license my entire academy. Okay, everything
so what does that mean? Because this is like, I've never seen this before, but I've also like training has not been my interest per se, so I haven't looked into it. But would you just hand them over the manuals and everything and they just copy and paste it? Like, I'm really confused.
No. So I actually partnered with NALA as well. So everyone who takes the POLA Educator program, they get the School for Lash Trainers Step 1, or the pieces of it that are relevant, because a lot of it is how to build your program.
Okay.
So I don't take those pieces, but I do a lot of the like actual being an educator and how you can do that effectively, because that's what really brought my game up another level. And then whoever licenses POLA actually fast tracks through to a NALA accreditation. They do have to still meet the requirements of having a space that is appropriate and having insurance as an educator. But then I have checked off all the other boxes. So they can automatically get a NALA accredited academy as long as they meet their requirements.
Why would somebody want a NALA accredited academy? Like, why is this important?
Well, for me, I'm really proud of it because it shows potential students that I meet a specific standard, which is high anywhere in the world, but especially Canada because we're not regulated.
This is the only industry standard that we have.
Right? And yes, we have to meet standards for like offering a personal service, but beyond
having
that,
a sink and washing your hands.
Right? Disinfecting your tweezers with something more than alcohol wipe.
Yeah.
Like
it's literally it.
Yeah. So although we have to meet very basic regulations, I don't need to have a state board or a provincial board coming in and telling me what I should be doing because I personally want to have the highest standards that I can have. I've always wanted to do that in everything that I can do. If I can do something, I want to do it the best to the best of my abilities. And my program meets or exceeds all regulations that I'm aware of in Canada, the US, and Australia so far.
That's incredible, Liz.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Thank you. So I really want to make sure that no matter where you are, you're giving your students the best possible information. So it comes with the 215-page accredited manual. There's an online platform that I can personalize for each educator. So their students have access to the online platform, which is 16 hours of theory and practice materials.
So you don't have to come up with any of this yourself. Like this is very like a done-for-you solution.
Yeah, completely done for you. All of the contracts, intake, consult, and like design forms, spreadsheet for like tracking all your products, putting kits together. There's email templates. So like a student signs up, here's your first email that you send, and it's a template. You just copy and paste it into an email.
This is hundreds of hours of work.
Hundreds of hours of work. It's everything that I use to successfully run my Lash Academy.
Yeah.
And I want there to be really great education available to a lot of people. And a lot of people don't have the time or energy or want to put their own stuff together. So yes, it is an investment. It's $10,000 Canadian, or like, I think it's about 72 American.
Yeah.
7,200 American for the first year. And then there's a small licensing fee every year after, but that just covers your NALA accreditation, your IPAC. So Emily Lee has the infection prevention and control course, and it comes with that license as well for all of your students so that you don't have to go through all of that. She's made it really fun. I love it. It's a 76-minute video and it is so fun.
Is that the one that's like 5 modules?
Yeah, it's a pretty boring topic. And she's made it so funny. Like she really did a really good job with that. So it comes with that as well as the hosting of the online platform for your classroom.
Okay, so it's literally everything in a box. Like
So
you're
then-
not coming up with manuals, you're not coming up with, you're not recording the classes, you're not coming out with all the emails, the copywriting, the onboarding. Oh my God, that's amazing.
No. All of it. It's all done. All you have to do is focus on your in-person training, which is the most fun part of all of it. And there's even different structures of classes that I've tried, that have worked for me, that might work for someone else. Yeah.
And then you're also going in as a new trainer, knowing that you're doing it the right way and that your students are going to be getting the best education and you're not going to be like dropping the ball or missing this or missing that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And right from day one.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all done and set out for you. So I charge $3,500 for my classic and volume combo class. So if you were to take that same pricing structure, then you could pay it off. If you have 3 students, you can pay it off with your first class, the investment.
That's amazing. And I would hope that you're definitely looking for more than 3 students in your first year when you're deciding to become a trainer.
So I have 2 options. I'm doing it retreat style at like a European spa here in Vernon. It's called Sparkling Hill. It's amazing. We had our first one at the end of January, but I've also just introduced a live stream option for people who can't travel to Vernon for a weekend. And that's a little bit less expensive as well because it doesn't include this spa retreat.
And what does the retreat look like and what do you guys do there?
We went over some money mindset, We got them all set up. They got Remarkable tablets to help run their business.
I love e-writers.
Oh, it is. Have you tried the Remarkable?
I have the Supernote.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Remarkable tablet integrates with Google Drive. So we got everything switched over for them. We got it all set up. And then we went over creating a mission and vision statement for each of their academies.
Yeah.
And then we went down to the spas and saunas and pool and had some really good dinner. And then the next day we went over the School for Lash Trainers, step 1 in the morning. We did some role playing on like different scenarios that can come up in class. Then more spas and saunas and dinner. Just going over all of the things, making sure that they feel super confident to teach their first class. And Chandra, one of the educators that was there, just is teaching her first class this week.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. And she's been sending me messages the whole time like, oh my gosh, this is better than I could have imagined. Like my student came in and she was like raring to go.
And I love that she's confident and comfortable teaching her first class and not like freaking out, questioning everything, right? It really makes a big difference when you have that base underneath you.
Right? Yeah. Both educators that did it were my previous students.
Aww.
So that was like such a huge compliment as well, because they obviously felt good about the class that they got. And one of them, she was a student of mine 8 years ago. I think she was like my 6th student ever. And when she said, oh my gosh, your course was amazing, I was like, you're going to get your tits blown off. It has changed remarkably.
In the last 8 years, everything has changed.
And she just trusted without even seeing it before she paid me.
Oh my God, just drop 10K. Like, take my money. Here we go. Like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
She felt so good about the first class she took. And I was like, dude, if you could see the difference, like you're going to see the difference, because she still had her manual.
That's amazing. Good for you, girl. Good for you.
Thank you. I just want to make it easier to get better education, because if we raise the standard for the newbies coming in, they are the ones that are going to grow up and level up in the industry, and then they're going to teach other people.
Yeah.
And so if we're raising the bar from the very beginning as much as possible, then the industry itself will just get better and better and better.
Also, it's so disgusting to hear and then hear the stories or experience dropping like $2,500 or $3,000 on a training course to learn a skill, and then they're learning absolutely nothing from it. And they're going out and working with clients and they just have no confidence. So I think anything that you can do to better yourself and better the experience for whatever it is that you're offering, it's so, so important. And it's going to save you so much headache down the road. And you don't want to be that person that's putting out something that's just for the dollar, right? You want to do something the best way that you possibly can, so that you get the referrals later on, and that it's not even about getting anything back later on. It's just by just your integrity and just doing it the right way, right?
100%, knowing that you gave everything to that person and that they are going to be successful because you gave them a good start.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap up, we'd love to know, what does a day in like the Luxe Lash life look for you? And like, how do you balance a successful career and your personal health and having a family?
Yeah, it's been crazy. There's been a lot going on in the last couple of years. My daughter's about to be 5 in a couple weeks, and we're actually surprised. Well, it's not a surprise anymore. They found out the other day. But my husband and I just kind of last minute, we're like, should we go to Disney for her birthday, for spring break?
It's a wicked surprise.
Yeah.
A wicked birthday.
Yeah. So we're going to drive down. My husband's best friend lives like 15 minutes from Disney. And so we're going to stay with them for a week, and I'm going to see a lash friend. I do have a home studio, which I love, 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 love. So when we moved back from Vancouver, we had kept our house here in Vernon. And when we moved back, we got rid of the suite that was on the first floor. And I took over the kitchen area and one of the bedrooms down here for my studio. It is in our house, but is separate from where we're living in the house. I don't work very many evenings anymore because my daughter's in preschool and my son is in grade 2. So like that's my time with them. And on the weekends, I don't really work on the weekends unless it's like, it'd be an oddity. So I do work during the week, and most of my clients are mature. That's kind of my target demographic for clients, and they can come during the day because they usually either don't work or have jobs that they can just peace out from. I do a lot of therapy. I actually just had body talk this morning.
Absolutely love therapy.
Have you done body talk?
No, I don't know what body talk is. What is body talk? Do I need to do this?
Like next level. I consider it a form of therapy still, but it works on energy.
Okay, I love anything to do with energy.
Oh, it works on the stuff that you aren't able to do yourself just through talking to a therapist.
And here I thought I have to start like microdosing in order to get through this. And I've been debating that whole microdosing journey. I haven't started it yet, but I've been debating. So I'm like, let me get more like a subconscious level, you know?
Right? Yeah. So I do hypnotherapy and body talk.
Body talk. I need to look into this.
Yes. And my girl, like I just did that right before I'm seeing you. So I had to like redo my makeup because I just bawled. Like bawled. But it was a really good bawling, you know?
What do you guys do in a body talk session?
Lots of stuff. So today we worked on some childhood trauma stuff.
So is it still talking? Like just talk therapy?
No. So I'm laying down.
Okay.
And she touches different areas and works on the subconscious mind. Cool. But then I like envision a ton of stuff. And then we are like conversing a little bit, but it's like she can see what's happening before I even verbalize anything.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so cool. I love her so much. If anyone's in the Okanagan, it's Pam Dillon. She actually does remote sessions as well. But
she'll
like,
make you cry.
She is next level. She is absolutely next level and so healing. So I integrated a part of me that I had kind of left.
Yeah.
And so I like gave her some love and I brought her back into me. And oh man, yeah, all kinds of different things are happening. I thought I was having seizures for a few years. And I was going to the seizure clinic in Vancouver. They couldn't figure it out. They were like, this sounds like seizures. It looks like seizures, but we can't see it on any of our tests.
That's so scary.
And I'm like, okay. My hypnotherapist said, you should start doing body talk. I feel like you should do body talk. And I'm like, okay, done. It felt right. And I always go with that. And the second I walked into her room, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I've been here before. You know, like that. It just, everything connected and whatever was happening happened on her table. And she knew it was going to happen before it ever started.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not seizures. It's like this energy that is trying to get out and heal.
It's crazy where the universe will lead you.
Right?
Exactly where you're meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I had cervical cancer 2 years ago. It's 2 years, like the end of this month. I had surgery.
Idea.
Yeah. So get your PAPs, get things checked.
Go to therapy.
It is so important. And then do follow-ups. You know, it can happen to anybody. I had one bad PAP when I was 24, and then 17 years later, I had cancer.
Damn.
So, and if I hadn't gotten that PAP, it would have, they caught it just before I would have needed chemo and radiation.
Oh my God.
So like someone was looking out for me. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing another post like, ladies,
get your PAPs.
It is time once a year. Yep. Once a year, I'm going to do this like big PSA because I feel like things are going downhill with, I mean, I think you're supposed to get checked every 3 years now.
Yeah.
I could have been dead. Yeah. Like it could have been way too late if I had waited that long. That was kind of weird emotionally, right? Thankfully I was done having kids.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to worry about that piece of it, but it's weird going through that and then being told, okay, like we can get rid of it, but
I cannot even imagine.
Right?
No.
And so I had to have a full hysterectomy. But I mean, I'm fine now. I'm good now, but it was a process to like digest. And in the moment you're like, okay, just get rid of it. Like whatever you need to do.
There's so many components of that.
There's so many components. Yeah. And my kids were so little, right? It was 2 years ago. My daughter was 2 turning 3.
And then were you off work at that time as well?
Yeah. So I ended up taking about 8 weeks off after surgery.
Just like no time at all.
Yeah. Right. Because there was just some complications and I was in the hospital a couple extra days. I just lost a bunch of blood and it just took longer than I expected.
Just casually, I just lost a lot of blood.
Oh my gosh.
Just needed a couple extra weeks.
Right? Well, because I had endometriosis previous to that. Like
that's a whole nother ball game.
Right. And so after surgeries, like laparoscopies, you're pretty good after like a week. So I'm like, oh, it should be fine. Like I'll be fine. And I initially was going to take 3 weeks off. And most of my clients, again, are mature. Many of them have gone through this. And they're like, you should set us up with someone in the meantime. Okay, sure. So I sent most of my people to a student of mine who's amazing. And yeah, I ended up taking 8 weeks off because it just took so much longer to heal than I was expecting. I think a lot of it was emotional as well. That was kind of a bit of a block with the healing. But
Yeah.
I think just making sure to not burn out. I won't take any more than 3, sometimes 4 clients in a day now.
3 is my max as well. And that's fills. That's not even a full set. I'm not doing 3 full sets in a day.
Oh no.
I don't know how some girls can knock out like 6. I'm like, all the power to you, sure. But
I used to. Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. Chiropractor, massage, physio. I go to physio regularly.
Yep.
And I have a really supportive partner.
Pilates.
Which, like you do as well, right?
My husband is amazing.
Oh.
I definitely don't tell him enough, but he's amazing.
Right? I expect you to be like that. No. Yeah. Luke and I have been together for 21 years this year. And we're together this long because he's so supportive. Like anything that is important to me, he makes sure that it is top priority, and he has always just been my like number one cheerleader for everything.
I love
I mean, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have even taken the course.
Yeah. Just try it and see what you want to do with it after. It's actually very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
my husband's the whole reason we designed the app. I just had things on a piece of paper. I'm like, this would be great. And he's like, let's make it happen. I'm like, what? I thought this was just an idea of what could be.
Right? Oh, and I have so many more ideas for you as well.
Okay.
I know we chatted at LashCon because we had started to create one. And then it just kept coming back to you like, but Neelam already has this.
I mean, you could still do it.
No, I'm good. That's not where I'm going to set. My energy is now going into Pola.
Okay.
But
I will take all of your ideas then.
Right? Because we have some really good ones. And then one is already done. And it is a super amazing add-on for lash artists.
Oh my God. I vaguely remember the conversation because it was on the dance floor and it was there and it was after a few drinks. Your husband's in the software side of things too, right?
Yeah, he's in tech for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, we definitely
He does cloud stuff. He runs a team that is responsible for cloud ops. For
I love how you describe his work because it's like the same when I'm describing my husband's work and I'm like, connection, microwave, fiber.
So funny. When I first met him, he worked in Bosnia. He was a contractor for the military, so he was a civilian, but he was working in Bosnia and everyone was like, your boyfriend's a spy. Your boyfriend's a spy. I'm like, I swear he's not. He does satellite communications for the military. Yeah, he might be a spy.
He sounds like a spy.
It totally did.